Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's edition of Simulcast Today. I'm your host, Jim Mulvihill. I'm joined, as always, by Fairgrounds online handicapper Brian, the Kohn Biscuit Kohn. Jimbo and the Biscuit here with you to look at this week's major stakes from around the country. We've got a handful of very competitive races to look at, hopefully try and beat some favorites, and hopefully make some money. Brian, as we move here into the end of June, the Triple Crown is behind us. Which means, of course, that there won't be as much attention on racing in the mainstream press. But for serious racing fans, this is a great time of year. What do we have to look forward to now that the Triple Crown is passed?
Well, we get to kick off the road to the Breeders' Cup in early November. So we get to see some of the best older horses, both on the dirt and the grass, based in the United States, to see what they can do as they get to the Breeders' Cup and see how those Europeans do. Internationally, they all come together at the Breeders' Cup, and I look forward to it, definitely.
Absolutely, and we also have Del Mar and Saratoga on the horizon, so a lot of great racing and a lot of great betting here over the course of the next few months, the rest of these summer months, and we'll be here every week to give you information on those top stakes races, as well as some best bets every day. As Brian alluded to, this is the start of the road to the Breeders' Cup, and these three races that we've picked out today to take a closer look at all have older horses, some of the top older horses in their respective divisions in the country, and these are names that I think we will see pop up over and over again over the course of the rest of this year. So now, without further ado, let's get to the handicapping and try and pick some horses that'll make us some money this afternoon. Our first race is the 9th at Hollywood Park. That's the Vanity Handicap. That's set to go off at about 7:10 p.m. Central Time. Your favorite in the Vanity is the 2, Include Me Out, a 9-5 favorite on the morning line. Zazu will probably scratch. That was already announced earlier in the week by trainer John Sadler. And the number 7, Kalis, or Cialis, I'm not exactly sure how you say that, but the 7 could also be a scratch. Make sure you check the latest scratches and changes on the Hollywood Park monitors. So we'll have a short field in here, but it's a very competitive one. Brian, do you see anybody in here that can tackle Include Me Out in the Vanity?
She looks like a pretty tough filly, very nice filly, 1 or 3 in a row. But I went a little bit deeper and went with the 1, Rock and Glory. Absolutely been fantastic since switching to 2 turns. I think that's been the big difference for her. Dominant winner in maiden race 2 starts back, dominant winner in allowance. So although she's never faced Stakes Company, has been much the best in her last 2 starts, she looks ready and primed for this race. I think what's going to happen is sure be sent by Martin Garcia, go for the lead, wide of the field. What I really liked a lot about her is she set faster fractions than the 3-1 8 Ella Fitz, the Bob Baffert horse. So I think she's going to be able to clear her and just go on the way, set the pace, and wide over Include Me Out. 1-2-8 is how I saw it. How do you see this one?
Well, Rock and Glory definitely has the ideal draw for the speed horse. She will probably get out there, and Ella Fitz, I think, needs the lead. So I don't really like Ella Fitz at all, because she's going to be hung out there on that outside post, and I think she'll have to use herself up too much early to stay up with Rock and Glory early on. That said, you mentioned it, Rock and Glory has never faced Stakes Company before. This is a big step up for your first try against Stakes Company. I would prefer to see a more logical progression of maybe trying a somewhat softer stakes spot. This jump up into Grade 1 Company, that's asking quite a bit of any horse, unless you're talking about a complete superstar. Include Me Out, perfect this year, dominant in the Santa Margarita, and then before that, the La Cañada. Last time out, guts out a win in the Everett Handicap. That's the race that used to be known as the Milady. These are 3 great races. And then this one today, the Vanity, trainer Ron Ellis said earlier this week, this is the race that he pointed to this spring. She's going to get a break after this one. Ron Ellis, a very competent trainer, a guy who I believe can keep a horse running at its peak form over the course of several races. So I actually look for Include Me Out to win her 4th race of the year here today. I think she's just classier than the rest of the field, and I think this is the kind of horse that we'll see in the Breeders' Cup Distaff come the end of this season. For me, I do agree with you on Rock and Glory that there's a lot of potential there. I just think this is too much to ask. I put Rock and Glory 2nd, so it's 2-1-8 for me in the Vanity. The next race we're going to look at today, the Colonial Turf Cup from Colonial Downs. This is race 7 on their card. post time here in New Orleans for that 7th race from Colonial, 7:36 Central Time. The favorite in here, Turbo Compressor. This is a very competitive race, and this is actually not the horse I would have made the favorite if I were to do a morning line in here. Turbo Compressor really had his best efforts up against State Bred Company, only tried the turf 2 times now. You do, of course, have the power of Todd Pletcher behind Turbo Compressor, and that always is going to influence the odds, and that could have been what gave him the edge in this morning line. But Brian, I think Turbo Compressor is a very suspect favorite in here, and it's one of the horses today I'm really eager to bet against. Do you see it the same way? I mean, Turbo Compressor, not to take anything away from this horse, but this is a horse I want to bet against.
Well, I looked at this race a long time. I think this is, of the 3 stakes races we're talking about today, this is probably the most competitive, it seems like, when it comes to any of these horses. Really could be alive here. This is a great betting race. But in the end, the reason why I like Turbo Compressor was that it looks like he's going to get to go for the lead and get it alone. Be lone speed here. Doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of pace. So I think if he gets to that early lead, Joe Bravo slows down the fractions a little bit. I think just for that reason, I think he is going to be the one to beat. And that Turf Classic, that's a tough race. Just wasn't his day. But 2 out of the last 3 starts have been absolutely fantastic. And even that third, I mean, you look at the Sunshine Millions Classic, yeah, that was a state-bred race. But boy, those are not state-bred horses he faced. Well, they are, but they're not what you would assume are state-bred horses. Mucho Macho Man, one of the best older horses, I think, in the country. Juan the Greek, just the same. Juan the Greek went on to win the big cap at Santa Anita. So definitely, I think that's a key race to finish third in. I do think he's going to be the one to beat. 7, 9, 11. And how did you end up seeing it?
All right. Well, you do like Turbo Compressor, and yes, those are some impressive horses in the company line in the Sunshine Million Classic, but that race, of course, was on the dirt. In 2 starts on the turf, Turbo Compressor won a very high-priced allowance race and then finishes off the board in that very difficult Turf Classic. But to me, I think not having a stakes win on the turf, I just can't take a short price on a horse like that. I'm actually going to go and look at the winner of the Mervyn Muniz Memorial Handicap here at Fairgrounds just a few months ago. That, of course, is the number 4 Casino Host. Actually, the last 2 winners of the Muniz are in here. You'll notice that Smart Bid also is in this field, and they faced off last time in the Dixie at Pimlico. But I put Casino Host on top. Chad Brown's a trainer that's won at a very high percentage the last few years, a guy I really like. I think last time out in the Dixie, this horse didn't have a great trip, was 5 wide coming into the stretch, and I think deserves deserves to be forgiven for that effort. And you're going to like the price, 6-1 on the morning line, and I think coming off a loss, finishing behind some of these same horses, I think Casino Host is the right type of price, despite being on the same level as the top choices in here. So I put Casino Host on top, and it was 4-2-1 for me, which also includes Ristrada, who's the defending champion in this race, and also maybe is a little bit under the radar, not coming into the race in peak form, but again, the defending champion, and then the 1, Fort de Marmy, the British bred for Roger Atfield. So 4-2-1 in the Colonial Turf Cup. Now we're going to breeze through the last race here, and that is, of course, the Stephen Foster Handicap, Grade 1 at Churchill Downs, a mile and 1/8. They have a night racing card this evening, so this one's set to go off at 8:39 Central Time, and this could be the best collection of older horses to meet anywhere in the country so far this year. Perhaps the best collection of older horses since our New Orleans Handicap here at Fairgrounds just a few months ago. In any case, your favorite is the number 1, Wise Dan, part of an entry. The other half of the entry, Successful Dan, his stablemate, is set to scratch. But Wise Dan, similar to what we were saying about the Vanity, this is a horse that I think we'll see as one of the top choices in the Breeders' Cup Classic. The trainer, Charles Lepresti, has won at a very high percentage, and with these 2 horses, Wise Dan and Successful Dan, managed them so well. Wise Dan coming off a 10-length win in the Ben Ali. Brian, I don't see a reason to play against Wise Dan in here, even with the quality of this field, but maybe you see it differently.
I really don't. I wish I did, because Wise Dan's going to be 8-5 on the morning line. He's going to be the heavy favorite, and this is really a great race. A lot of the top older horses. You got Nate's Mineshaft, who won here several times, actually. Horse of the meet, record breaker, comes off a dominant performance at Lone Star Park last time. You got some other top horses, Alternation. You got Nero, who finished runner-up in some of the classics last year, the Arkansas Derby, the Louisiana Derby, and of course the Kentucky Derby. But in the end of the day, Wise Dan is just such a classy horse right now. He, as you said, over 10 lengths last time that Ben Ali. Won the clog here last year, so being on the Churchill surface isn't going to be a problem for him. 3 wins and 6 starts at Churchill. Just seems to be so much the best. He'll have to. Some of the horses have to show their best to beat him today, I think. 184 is how I saw it. Do you see it similarly, Jim?
I do. I don't think anybody can beat Wise Dan in this spot. The word this week from Churchill Downs was that this horse is on top of his game, practically kicking down the stall door, ready to run today. So that being said, as long as Wise Dan runs his race, I think he is the winner here. There are still ways to make some money in here, though. I'm not a fan of Nate's Mineshaft in this spot. The last time he was at Churchill Downs, 2 starts back, Derby week, he didn't get the lead. Obviously, that's the way he needs to run. But then he comes back with this deceptively big Beyer number in the Lone Star Park handicap. That was not the best field, even for a graded stakes race. I still do not really trust that Nate's Mineshaft is a grade 1 caliber horse. I hate to say it because he had such a great run here at Fairgrounds, won our 2 biggest races for older horses. But this field, I think, is just going to be a little too tough for him. The horse I like underneath is Nero, who has had some success at Fairgrounds. Started off his season here with an easy entry-level allowance win against some very soft company. But Nero, I think, is an improving horse, just missed last time in the Pimlico Special. And Asmussen loves to train his horses so that they run their best race third off a layoff, and that's what we're going to see from Nero today. So I think Nero is set to put forth a peak effort. And then Alternation, a game horse that it turns out can take his race anywhere. So I see it as 1, 4, 8 in the Foster. Brian, your top 3 again in the Foster?
We saw it very similarly, but I like 184.
All right, 184 for Brian. There you have it. 3 great races around the country today. Enjoy the betting. Try and beat the favorites when you can. But hopefully we'll all cash some tickets and make some money today. We'll be here around this time every week to go over the top races from around the nation. Thanks for joining us on Simulcast Today. Good luck and happy betting.